Hi everyone. In this video, we'll be answering three questions. The first one is what is on this slide. Why start your GMAT preparation as early as March of a year? Given the fact that for a 2025 US Business School September admission calendar, the earliest application window opens in August end of this year or early September of this year. So talking about a 6 month from now is when the applications open. Should you really be starting your GMAT preparation as early as now? That's the first question to answer. The second question that we'll be looking at is that the GMAT has changed. It's changed from the classic edition to the focus edition. So what are the modifications you need to do in your preparation, both in terms of the content and in terms of your plan? Third, the plan itself. What is that plan? That plan will answer it as a third question in this video. Let's get started. Before we get into this, right, why start as early as March, right? I'll give you a spoiler. When you're in August or September having written your GMAT and when you're applying for your business school's round one application cycle, you'll be asking yourself, why did I not start earlier? Why did I not start in January or February? I would have had more headroom is typically what many of our students say. So on that note, let's get started. This entire business school application is not something where you go and write one examination and then based on your rank, they basically give you an admission. Typically what happens in many of the UG admission processes in India, right? You write the JEE, you write the NEET, and then based on that score, you get an admission. You basically choose the program depending upon what your rank is. This is not how it works. It's a project which is packed. It's got multiple steps to it. The first one is the obvious one, which is like you have to get your test score on hand, right? So GMAT preparation, before the test score, you need to do the preparation. Give or take, a good GMAT preparation spans 3 to 4 months. People who manage it in probably under a month, those are basically people who have had good experiences in examinations such as this, or they could have just straight away got lucky. If you have to basically budget for a good preparation, which would get you a score which is 705 and above, a 90 plus percentile kind of a score, then you need 3 to 4 months of dedicated preparation for the GMAT. Second one, preparing for the GMAT, taking the GMAT, always have a plan B. Plan B comprises two things. What if your first GMAT score is not up to your liking, is not what is likely to get you an admission to the school that you are looking to get admitted into? So you need to have a plan B. The gap between two GMAT exams is 16 calendar days. So if you plan to take the second GMAT, you need at least that window. Oftentimes students take a month between the first GMAT and the second GMAT. Second, plan B also comprises some things. There are a few of our students who realize along the path of their preparation for the GMAT, what the GMAT test is not something they are comfortable acing. There's an alternative examination. They look at the GRE. What GRE tests, especially when it comes to the verbal, is significantly different from what is tested in the GMAT. So they have a better chance of scoring in the GRE. So if you have to make that amend to move from GMAT to GRE, you need to provide for those headrooms. So GMAT preparation itself is 3 to 4 months. Along the way or after having taken the test, you want to take the test again or you want to switch to GRE, you need to provide leeway, you need to provide headroom for it. This, let's say, is done and you have a score to your liking by July of this year. This is where the studying part of it is over. This is probably 30% of getting into a business school is done. There's still 2/3 of the way, 70% of the way to go. That starts with the school research. This is a very important component, right? Remember, an MBA is one, expensive. Even if you get scholarship, there is still a lot of commitment in terms of time and like opportunity cost that is lost that you'll have to be investing into the school. This is probably the last of the degrees that you're going to be earning. Most of us, we are not going to be doing a degree after an MBA. So this is going to be the one which is going to be screaming loud in your resume. So this jolly well be from a place which will take you to the place where you want to be. Want to be in the C-suite, check out which school MBA is going to take you there. If you want to be in a particular industry, check out which school alumni typically work in that particular industry. So do the research, check out not just the ranking given by places like US News or like FT. Look at where the alums are. Is that the program that you want to do? Is that the location where you want to study? Do a lot of research. Where do you do research? You can look at places like US News, you can look at Business Week, you can look at Financial Times, you can go to the business school websites, and you can go to specialized websites such as Poets and Quants. These are the places where you do research, right? You need to know, hey, these are the 20 schools that I'm interested in, right? From about the top 50 schools. From that 20, you'll narrow it down to probably 10, 12, and then do further research. And that research, let's check out what that entails and narrow it down to the 6 to 8 schools which you're more inclined to applying to. There's a lot of research that goes into it. It's very time consuming. Do not short circuit, don't take a shortcut to it. Don't go to some consultant and don't take their word for it as to what will work for you. What works for Bhaskar will be different from what works for you, and what works for you will be different from what works for me. We need to do our own research to know what school actually will make the cut for us. The next one is basically networking and connecting. Networking and connecting has 2 components. Networking and connecting has a connect component with the admissions team of the school, which is extremely important, making a good impression. They should know that you as a person, as an applicant, exists even before your application reaches the school. That is going to make a lot of difference. They know that this person is serious about joining the business school. The second kind of connection I'm talking about is connecting with the students, your seniors, second year students, if it's a 2-year MBA, or with the alumni from that place. Many a times, people push their GMAT much into the end of the calendar. They would take their GMAT by November of a year and would want to catch round 2 application deadline, which will be in December. That's the time they'll try to network with students who are in second year or with alumni. Typically, the December is the time. If you're an alumni who's working in a company, you're going to be holidaying with family. You might be traveling from US to your hometown. You are not interested in engaging with someone who's saying, hey, I'm going to apply to your business school. Is it a good place to go? Shall we connect? Can you help me out? They are not in a frame of mind to help you there. Even look at second year students. If you're looking at them, typically, they would have either done their summer internship and got a pre-placement offer, which would all be done by June, July, or they would be preparing their resume and going through their entire placement calendar starting October of a year. You're trying to catch the second year students, your seniors, at a time when they are essentially looking for their jobs, right? At that point in time, they wouldn't have the mind space to come and help you out. It's not that they don't want to help you out. They have so many things happening in their life. So essentially catch them early. When to catch them? Catching them by June, July. The moment your GMAT is over, when you're heaving a sigh of relief saying, hey, I got a good GMAT score. Now what? Start connecting with them. Look at the second year students. They've done their internship. If they've got a pre-placement offer, they're like happy, they're partying. Or they will be welcoming first year students into the campus. So all of these are the times when they're in a fun mode, they want to help people. Either study academic pressure or professional looking for a job pressure has not yet hit them. So that's a good time to connect with them and basically take their advice and network. Do this early. Do not push it to October, November. You may not get a response. Many of our students say like, hey, I wrote to alums, I wrote to these people, they're not connecting with me. They're not connecting with you basically because you started the entire process a little late. June, July is an ideal time to actually start this networking process. Move on. Basically have to spit and polish your profile, right? The things many times that we do in life, we do not think of them as something, as any great achievement or as a task. Sometimes the way you present it, the way you write about it can make it actually look very good, right? So that part of it, you need to work on your entire profile. What have I done? What did I do in college? What did I do when I started working? Did I do this? Did I do that? How can I present this? So that thought process is time consuming. It takes a lot of mind space, right? Get that. Then you need to have your resume and essays in place. The resume that you do for a job, if let's say you're working for a tech sector, would essentially talk about your Java skills, your Python skills, your Cobra skills, all of those things, right? Whereas here, we're going to be talking about what difference you made to the business of the company. Your resume itself should read different. The same skills that you have need to be presented in a very different way. Getting your B school resume ready from, let's say, a tech or a pre-MBA resume, right? An undergraduate resume to an MBA resume takes at least 7 to 8 days of research, work, reworking it, providing figures, getting corroborating evidence for anything that you state, right? And essays, they're not that easy. It's not what you do when you apply for a MS program, let's say in computer science or in aeronautics, right? There, what you do is you basically write one statement of purpose, change the name of the school, and keep sending it to 10 schools. Each school here has a different essay. Someone will ask for your goals in 200 words. Someone will ask for your goals in 600 words. You can't basically triplicate each word and make it a 600-word essay. A 600-word essay has to be engaging, and a 200-word essay should tell everything about you. So you need to pack something like a dynamite, and the other thing, you should not let it bloat and essentially let the reader lose interest in you. So you need to have different ways of writing the same essay. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. The first business school essay, pick a business school which has got more essays than anyone else, right? So if you have a business school which has got 5 essays, which is typically how high it could get, if you work on that, you're ready for other schools which will have lower number of essays. So this takes a lot of time, 20 days probably to get the first packet out. Then this is very important. This is at least within your control. This is not in your control. You need to get recommendations, anything from 1 to 2. Who are you going to approach? Are they going to give you a recommendation based on the work that you did with them 3 years back? Or can you ask your immediate boss for the recommendation? Will your immediate boss actually give you a recommendation? Or is he going to give you more work so that like you don't apply to the place? Or are you in good terms with the company that you last quit, that you can go and ask a recommendation from them? The multiple aspects of it. You need to pick 2 or 3 people. If you're applying to 7, 8 schools, then probably you might have to line up 2 sets of recommenders so that like you don't overburden any of them. And you need to ping them. You need to tell them that it's going to happen soon enough. And you need to prime them. You need to give your resume to them. You need to tell them what all you have done in that work relationship that you had with them so that they can highlight those things. So a lot of work goes into basically getting your recommenders ready to recommend for you. And lastly, if everything goes well, there's the interview process. So much activity that happens before the school is basically going to hand out an admission offer to you. So if you're going to be applying in September and your GMAT score is ready by July, 2 months you'll find is still not adequate time. So March itself is just how late you could push for a round 1 admission cycle. Now let's get on to, having realized that you need to actually start your GMAT preparation by March, let's look at what has changed, right? We have a new GMAT and there's therefore a new plan. Let's quickly look at what is good in this new GMAT. The good thing about the new GMAT is the essay section is gone. So those of us who have any kind of a writer's block, we don't have to worry about it. Right? They basically removed certain components which are very time consuming in terms of studying sentence correction. A lot of rules, they've removed that. They've removed geometry. In the entire quant section, geometry is a place where you got 20% questions, whereas probably you need to work 40 to 45% of the time in terms of concepts to get this in place. So they removed that. It's a welcome thing. It's a shorter examination. It's an examination with fewer questions. What more can we ask for? GMAT has really been sweetened in this focus edition. Right, hold on. Before we kind of drool about it, saying, hey, this is the juiciest thing that we've got, there's a catch to it. Let's look at what those catches are. 1, you need to have greater accuracy. Right? Earlier, you had more questions that you could attempt to get the GMAT to give you a score. They've reduced the number of questions, which essentially means that every single question, what it carries into your final score, the weightage that it carries into your final score, is now amplified much more than what it was. You had earlier 31 questions in the quant to do this job. Now only 21 questions are doing it, which means that a third of the questions are gone. These 21 questions, now we'll have to tell the GMAT engine, how good, bad, ugly are you? Which means that any single question that you make a mistake is going to cost you a lot more into your final score than what it would have cost in the classic edition. What else has happened? Let's look at in GMAT Verbal section. Sentence correction was something which a lot of our students used to say, so many rules, so many different things. I need to know this phrase. I need to know this modifier. I need to know that there's a misplaced modifier. It used to be a section where students used to say, there's so much to be done. Who is bothered about grammar these days? Microsoft Word, Grammarly, all of these are correcting. Why are business schools asking for this? This used to be the typical rhetoric from students. But, mind you, sentence correction questions on an average took about a minute or a minute and 10 seconds. Critical reasoning and reading comprehension usually took about 2 minutes because you need to read passages and answer 2 to 3 questions. You need to read a passage and answer a question in critical reasoning in just about 2 minutes. What they've essentially done is they've kept the time consuming questions and they've removed the time ones that take lesser time. Third thing, integrated reasoning was introduced in 2012, but it was an outsider to the GMAT. The score that you got on integrated reasoning was not a part of your main score. Now that has come in as a part of the main score and it contributes equally. It has 1/3 weightage as the other 2 sections, which is basically quant and verbal. So this is now something which is going to matter and a lot of us need to give equal importance or probably more importance to it. So these are the changes, these are the catches that have come. So with this catch in place, now how do we make sense out of this, right? Start a GMAT preparation sometime in March and take the GMAT and have your score by July. What all steps does it entail? The phases of preparation have not changed significantly between the classic edition and the focus edition. I've given you links to the 2 GMAT preparation study plans starting in March, the different phases, what you need to do, how do you need to prep yourself, what works there will more or less work here. You just have to make some adjustments for, if I had used sentence correction or geometry as part of those, you just have to say that's no longer there, right? If you talked about only 2 sections which count to your 800, now you need to say that 3 sections count to my 805, right? Those kind of adjustments you need to do, but the study plan more or less still holds good. So now, giving you that particular thing, I'll just give the bird's eye view of what your study plan should be. you need to have a 3 to 4 month preparation window between March to July, and that should comprise about 15-hour prep week, nothing lesser than that. That's the kind of timeline that we are looking at. You need to invest so much amount of time to do justice to it. If I can translate it into number of questions, that translates to about 1500 plus questions in quant. Quant is a place where you have to give largest number of questions to practice for two reasons. One, we have multiple topics that come in quant. So therefore, you need to have adequate number of practice for each of the topics. The second important thing I want to kind of highlight here, quant of the three sections, verbal, quant, and data insights, is basically the easiest of the three sections. No doubt at all. I'm not talking because I'm a quant tutor. Most students will vouch for it. But having said that, there's a flip side to it. Right? What has happened in the focus edition is that if you get all 21 questions right, you'll get 90 on 90 in the quant section. A few of our students have managed that. But if you get even one question incorrect, the penalty is higher. Depending upon where you made that mistake, your score could come down from 90 to as low as 85, 86. That's a kind of dip that some of our students have seen for just one error in the question. Right? So essentially, your ability or your leeway to make a mistake here is a lot lesser. In the classic edition, someone could make one question mistake and still could get the 51, which is the highest points for the quant section at that point in time. Here, if you make one mistake, the chance of getting a 90 or practically the probability is 0. So you need to get all questions right. You need to get all questions right because quant is the easier section. A lot of people are going to ace quant, which means that you necessarily will have to ace quant, which means that one, you need to be good in all the concepts, you need to be fast, you need to be accurate. So multiple things play in it. So 1500 plus questions is a necessity to reach there. In terms of verbal, it would be roughly half, 800 odd questions. About 400 each of critical reasoning and reading comprehension should do the magic. Right? Here, you have a little more headroom. Making a few mistakes is not going to be as bad as it would have been in the quant section. The last one, data insights, about 600 to 800 questions. These are the time-consuming ones. In data insights, data sufficiency is relatively easier, tricky, relatively easier, less time-consuming. But the other parts, things like multi-source reasoning, table analysis, they're really time-consuming. The language is tricky, so you need to get used to how this is tested and also get acquainted with the language. So 600 to 800 questions practice for DI would make the cut. So give or take, we are talking about 3000 odd questions that you need to be practicing. Do justice to it, and that would take 3 to 4 months. Right? 4 to 6 full-length adaptive mock GMATs is what you need to be taking. That's the last bit. Second part is July to September. All the parts that we talked about, we're going to start with school research, attend webinars, MBA tours. Sometimes you'll have to travel from one city to another within the country to attend these MBA tours. Right? There's a MBA tour which is organized by the GMAT itself. There's a QS MBA tour. There are like multiple tours that happen, and you basically would want to attend if schools participating in these tours are different, right? So you can meet the admissions officer, you can understand whether that's a school which is right for you, and also make a good first impression if that's a school that you want to apply to, right? So second one is basically network with students and alumni. Start as early as June, July. That's the time when they'll be having adequate time in hand to actually help you. Basically move on to sprucing up your social media presence. LinkedIn should necessarily be spruced up with recommendations, with connections, everything. You probably need to start this right away. And by June, July, you need to get it going, and it should be like active and doing wonders. If you have to write a few posts in your area, in your interest, do it, get people to read about it, get enough views for it so it speaks volume about your capabilities. Identify recommenders, prime them up about what needs to be recommended, what they have to write. Research your application partner. Many of us would look at an application assistance agency. You need to do who would basically help you best. Interact with them, check out, is that the person you want to work with? It could be a company, it could be an individual. They are going to help you polish a lot of these steps. They've done this many times. They basically help multiple students. So they know how you should present your story. They're not going to write someone else's story. They're not even going to write the story for you. They're essentially going to direct you to write the story and make it presentable, make the good in you shine really well, right? And once you've done all of these things, only then should you apply. This is a word of advice. Having seen it for so many years, people coming back time and again saying that I should have started earlier. Thought I should leave you with this note. Start now. Don't delay it any further. Best wishes.